I don't have an issue with care. I have an issue with the fact that it's unpaid. I have an issue with the fact that it's devalued, and the fact that people perceive it as something we should automatically do rather than actually we should be recognised for the important role that it plays in our communities and in our society.
You know, it absolutely breaks my heart, but it also makes me very, very angry when I see that looking after small children, teaching children, nursing people in hospitals and at home, looking after older people, taking care on a daily basis of people with disabilities, that these are the lowest paid jobs in our society. So what it's actually saying about it is that we don't care. We don't really care about people. We don't care because we pay the people who care, who do that work, so incredibly little. And I mean, it really is incredibly little.
I worked in a creche before, and in the room that I worked was a 2 to 3 year olds, just as an example. And the fees there were 1,050, almost 1,100, I think. And I was just thinking at the time I was earning 1,600, and I was thinking if I had a child here in Ireland now, there's no way I would survive. I can't do a natural thing and have children that I want to have, because out of 1,600. If I'm going to pay a carer the same minimum wage, that was just the minimum wage, which is about the same, what am I left with to look after myself, the child, the rent, everything else?
I think it's almost that people who are in need of care, whoever that is, if it's a child, if it's somebody who has a disability, if it's somebody who's, been medically unwell, or it's somebody who just through the passage of age needs help, it's a shadow society. Like, they're not seen, I don't think, by policymakers and decision makers, they're not seen as full citizens. They're not seen as worthy of investment. And I think, and again, I come back to, we are not a poor country. And we have decisions to make about where we invest in our country and what we do. Why are we not investing in our people?
If you look at families with children with special needs, right, they become parents, but they also become activists and warriors because they have to fight for everything that they have. And there is no choice but they have to look after their children. There is no alternative. The alternative could be a 10-year waiting list to get them into, any form of residential care or any supports and services. So people, in Ireland, they are the people that are, they're most at risk, and yet the government don't recognise that. In terms of one-parent families, we see the government, we see the budget, most marginalised, most at risk of poverty, and not a mention to them. And they're the people that need the support the most.
I suppose in the last 50 years, carers are more out there, because maybe 50 years ago, when you did have a special needs child, they would advise you to have a child in residential. And I know when Micheál was born, I was told by the doctor, he's Down syndrome and he won't do very much, he'll just lie there, So my thought was, no, I will make him do things, and no, he's not going into residential, he will progress.
Sometimes it feels as though there's no winning, because if you're a stay-at-home parent, then people will have a go at you for not contributing to society. If you're a working parent, why aren't you home looking after your children? There's there's no winning sometimes for us. And I think then in those kind of cases, then you just do what's best for you and your family, and what's best for your health and your mental health, etc. That's unfortunately the way it is sometimes, yeah.
And I know that, of course, we use gender now in a number of different ways. But when you talk about gender in terms of social policy, really you're signalling that you're going to be talking about women specifically. And when we talk about care, we're actually talking about women and how we live our lives.
We're not asking for special treatment, we're asking for a level playing field. And I always say to people, that disability does not discriminate, illness does not discriminate. It can happen to anyone at any time. So it's in all of our collective interest to ensure that these things are in place for people, so that should it happen that they develop a disability or an illness, that they can transition into that kind of new life as best as they can.
Lack of support and people at this moment in time are living very difficult lives, and to add the worry of care for a disabled child or adult, I think at some level women are exhausted. Service providers are not always open 24/7.
You cannot win as a woman. You really can't. I hope that that will change, but it's not a woman's world, unfortunately, but I hope that one day my daughter will be able to see that it is a woman's world. We just need to continue lighting the fire that we've started.
You shouldn't have to fight from the moment your child is born to the moment either they die or you die.